This week we look at a question many of us have asked. Why me, Lord? Sometimes we ask the question when we are facing adversity, when tragedy occurs or our life is turned upside down. It is an appeal to the Lord. Why me? There are people in the Bible who experienced trouble in their lives and could certainly ask the question, why me, Lord? A good example would be Job. In the first 2 chapters of the book of Job, we see several tragedies happening in his life. In an attempt to understand what was happening, Job's "Why me, Lord?" went so far that he asked the question, "Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb?" While we may never experience the turmoil Job had to face, there may be times in our lives when we feel, "How much more can I take?" Our "Why me, Lord?" is an attempt to understand what is happening to us. Other times we ask, "Why me, Lord?" when we feel God's call to do something out of our comfort zone. Moses asked it when God chose him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Moses must have thought, "Why me, Lord?" And as we read in Exodus 4 and 13, he says, "O Lord, please send someone else to do it." Certainly Jonah must have asked it when God said to him in Jonah 1 and 2, "Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it." Jonah thought, "Why me, Lord?" Verse 3 says, "But Jonah ran away from the Lord." How often have God asked us to do something that we just didn't feel comfortable doing, and our easiest response was to say, "Why me, Lord? Get someone else to do it." Maybe we did like Jonah, just ignored God and ran away. Maybe we were like Jonah in that God finally got our attention after listening to our "Why me, Lords," and we finally obeyed his call. But for a few moments, I want us to look at a different version of "Why me, Lord?" One of my favorite songwriters is Kris Kristofferson. Many of his songs have been written with great passion and feeling. One such song he wrote in 1972, shortly after attending a church service. It became his biggest hit and the only #1 of his career. It was entitled "Why Me, Lord?" It would be recorded by other artists including Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, and the Gator Vocal Band. The song has always been one of my favorite, partly because it summarizes my feelings. Some of the lyrics go like this: "Why me, Lord? What have I ever done to deserve even one of the pleasures I've known? Tell me, Lord, what did I ever do that was worth loving you for the kindness you've shown?" It is not a question asked out of tragedy or adversity. It is not an attempt to evade God's calling. It is an honest reflection of the goodness of God and why I, or any of us, deserve even the least of God's blessings. I see it as a song of grace. The Apostle Paul is a good example of someone who must have thought, "Why me, Lord?" every day of his life. Not because of any turmoil in his life, but because of God's mercy and kindness. One day Paul was persecuting those following Jesus. The next day he was called by God to bring the gospel message to the Gentile nation. He was being chosen by God to write about half of the New Testament. When Paul cried out, "Why me, Lord?" he was asking, "Why, Lord, would you show mercy to me, the chief of sinners?" If we can cry out, "Why me, Lord?" in the valley experiences of our life, how much more should we do so when we are on top of the mountain? How much more should we do so when we recognize God's blessings upon us? Most of us have had difficult times in our life, valley experiences, times when but for the grace of God we may never have climbed out. I'm not sure how to explain it, but it has not been in these times I have asked the question, "Why me, Lord?" as much as it has been in the mountaintop experiences. I look around and see the blessings of God on my life in so many ways. And like Kris Kristofferson writes, I have to ask the question, "Why me, Lord? What have I ever done to deserve even one of the pleasures I've known?" We do not deserve God's blessings. We, as sinners, did not deserve Jesus dying for us. Psalm 103:10, He does not treat us as our sins deserve. Why me, Lord? Why was I born in a place where freedom and human dignity was a right to all? A place where I don't have to worry where my next meal will come from. A place where I could choose my occupation, and provide a good life for my family. While we may take these things for granted, over 90% of the world's population do not enjoy such privileges. Why me, Lord? Why am I allowed to worship you without the fear of intimidation, while so many Christians do not enjoy such liberty? I don't know the circumstances of your life and what may cause you to ask, why me, Lord? But I do know, no matter what happens, we have a God who loves and cares for us. When we place our faith and trust in him, he will see us through all situations.